Hello there and welcome. In this video, I want to introduce to you 5 builds that work great with the high culture. We're going to go over all the tomes. I'm going to go over the cultural traits. Racial and form traits I leave up to you because there are so many differing tastes, and whenever I put up something, people bring up new ideas, and I think the cultural traits are much more important because of the affinity points and the interactions. So, all of the builds are adapted to the high culture. Some of them can be played with other cultures as well, and I will mention it if so. Now, number one, the first build that I want to introduce is a Lightning Stormborn build. Probably the most powerful one that I know about goes like this. You start on out with Evocation or Cryomancy, you can actually choose. Personally, I like to start out with Cryomancy more because of the starting traits. So let's move over these first. Frostblades and Frost Arrows interacts with the High Culture's Tier 1 roster better than the Evocation, and that's why I think it's a great place to start. You are going to pick up whatever you want. The White Witches are very crowd control heavy units. You don't need to pick them up. You can though. We're very battle mage heavy with this build, so choose to your own liking if you want them or not. The Snow Spirits are for me personally not really that appealing for this build, but if you want to use some mana for these units, they're not bad, especially if they evolve. The School of Cryomancy is amazing as we get a really heavy influx of knowledge, good synergy with the high culture in itself. Evocation, on the other hand, brings us lightning focus, which brings more smacking power to tier 2 and tier 3 units of ours, and interaction with electrification on our melee troops. So now we do more damage on slowed/frozen units and electrified units. This gets you quite some power on your front line. We also gain evokers, which are the AoE variant of our mages, all cheap accessible way earlier than our tier 3 mages. Storm spirits serve you as stormtroopers if you need them, or shock troopers I should rather say. Use them if necessary. Fulmination and Lightning Torrent are amazing, especially the latter one, because it's lowering the enemy's lightning resistance all over the board, and that means you can inflict even more damage. And Channeling Tower brings more mana, you just need to find some time to build it. That's the biggest downside about it. Tier 2, I went for this build into Glades. This is because we are pretty good with projectiles overall, so the Glade Runner is a pretty good addition and replaces our tier 1 units. The Entwine Protector also comes in very, very handy as a good frontliner. Aspect of the Root gives our native spears also some good extra power, tanking power, and overall this is just straight up a tanking utility tome, so we can use the HP a little bit better because the high culture's baseline durability is not that high. I paired this up with Fey Mists because I really like the mist things happening. I like Stays a Mist. I like even the unit in here. It's a very, very powerful tome, but in the tier 2 department, probably you can swap things out if you want to play something else, because the very important parts come afterwards again. So tier 3, Amplification. Powerhouse for our ranged units. Amplified arrows plus frenzying focus really makes a big difference. You can now unleash hell from the backline more than ever. Together with Astral Blood, you also now start critting a lot, and you also gain some more knowledge income. Not that we are really bad at it, we just strengthen our strong sides even more. I go from here on into cycles because I love projectiles of decay. It's such a powerful thing, inflicting decay plus a little bit extra damage. It's really good as it counters a lot of support schemes of enemy sides. We also gain some extra healing if necessary, and a tier 4 unit that can explode our own and resurrect afterwards. It's a pretty interesting concept, and altogether I found it to be very, very useful and fitting to the rest of the build. After that, Stormborn. You gain Naga Transformation, which makes your units really obnoxiously hard to kill, and a lot of other good things. You gain Stormbringers, which are among the best skirmishers in the game, if not the best. And you gain the ability to turn enemies wet, making them super vulnerable to your elemental damages, and after that you basically have won the game. You can now choose if you want to go for Tome of Paradise or Tome of Prosperity afterwards, both of them are really great. The strengths of this build are pretty clear. You deal out tremendous amounts of damage while staying stupidly tanky. It's really, really powerful. Cultural trait-wise, I played this with Runesmiths and Keepers of Knowledge. Runesmiths to lower the cost of the many, many unit enchantments, make them easier accessible. Keepers of Knowledge to get that extra point of Shadow Affinity super early in, and also it's really powerful in extra knowledge income. The more knowledge, the faster you grow. You can feel free to exchange that though, because we have very, very good native access to these. Okay, number 2 build, Elementals. I love elemental builds. We are starting out with this one with the Tome of Rock. You can also start out with Evocation if you want to, but I want to feature this first. Here we gain our frontline units from. Stone Spirits will be our best friends for this build, because once they are awakened, they hit like a truck. This is really, really cool, especially once they are evolved. Things get even better from here on out. Obsidian Weapons is a really good blanket upgrade for our entire roster. Not much, but really enough to stay relevant for longer fights. Gargoyles, really cool units. I love these. Can be recruited, don't need to be summoned. Extremely durable shock troopers. And Earthkin is a little bit of a... this is a nice a little bit of something tome. We are mostly here for the Stone Spirits though. I paired this one up with Evocation, mainly because the punching power of Rock is just only mediocre, and with Evocation we get some really good power-ups for our mages and supporters, which we feature always with the high culture if we want or not. We gain Lightning Blades, which is really good for our frontliners. Now we have 2 enchantments on our fighters. Not as much as with the previous one, because we have only 120% synergy, but, well, something. And we also gain a cheaper tier 2 mage, which interacts with the enchantment here and gives us also some AoE opportunities before we hit tier 3. I find that really, really useful. With tier 2, I go for Tome of Summoning for Arcane Restoration's mass healing of all our elemental troops. It's really powerful. Arcane Supercharge goes on elementals really crazy strong too. And with the Astral Keeper and the Astral Serpent, you have some interesting extra summons on the side. And if you ever face enemy magic origin units, Arcane Bond is actually really, really powerful. Summoning Wells, I like these as we play with the high culture natively a lot with conduits and research posts, and they have a nice synergy in that regard. Also this one, the minus 50% if you ever get attacked, are really, really good. Now, Winds is the next one. I chose this tome because it features extra elementals for us, which is pretty much our picture, and Wind Ragers are really good. Seeker Arrows are amazing, and with the Zephyr Archer we also have an amazing archer to use these on. Our average damage is not too high with these guys. I'm more here for the Wind Rager and the other utility spells and less about the archer synergy, but it's there, and since we're playing high culture, awakening these units is already giving them enough smack to make them relevant. Next tome in the list, Geomancy. Brings us geomantic crystallization, makes our entire species elementals, and hit harder. We also gain resonant blades, which is really, really nice. We go hard into the debuff game now, and we gain geomances, which are really high class, high power battle mages, which fit quite well into this build. Altogether, we also gain the capability to summon tier 3 elementals at our whim and some cool city building. I topped this off with Tome of Amplification. I went here in this video several times, no, only one time already, over its advantages. The advantages are exactly the same. It interacts really good with the Tome of Winds though, on an extra plus side, but the rest of the advantages are not worth repeating here. So, Tome of Crucible is what I pick for tier 4 here, because we are very Materium heavy, and I really like that one. You go here for Meteor Projectiles and fill it up with the rest of the spells to your own liking. You get a big chunk of battlefield magic, which is really nice, and I find all of these spells very self-explanatory on this side. The other tier 4 to pick is entirely up to you, and top it off with Creator. Here you have just free choice because the build is already pretty much done. There's no other tier 4 tome that I found which interacts really good with elementals. Let me know if you know. Trade-wise, I played this with mana channelers for cheaper summoning costs because it's just amazing. Also levels up the troops faster, and some shadow trade for the extra affinity so you get the Imperium skills. It's just that cheesy. Number 3, a dragon build, because I love playing high culture with dragons. It's just classy and powerful. Tome of Evolution is the basis. We use it for the units here. Slither Hatchling and Wyvern Fledgling go super crazy hard with Youthful Rejuvenation and Rapid Evolution enchantment. Use them as your frontliners for this build and pair them up with your backliners from your own culture. They are hard to kill due to these spells, and we combine this fighting power with the Tome of Roots to gain Blight Blades and Poison Arrows. Also a summoned unit that is also evolving. The Entwined Thrall goes super good with the Tome of Evolutions kit as well, and we gain one of the best disruption spells in the game via Wine Prison. Herbalists bring you city growth and mana and are never a bad thing if you have an environment which likes them. We move over from here on out to the Tome of Revelry, because, well, Revels of Carnage is just so good for any dragon-centric build that is not Mystic, so end of the line. We go here for this, but Blood Fury weapons is a nice thing to grab on our way out as well, as the Scalds, which are pretty nifty offense-centered supporters, which I personally really like to play in this build, and Revel is hard, gives us more crits. Nothing bad about that either. I don't see the Carnival of Flesh being a good big add-on for this build though. Moving on from here into Tome of Famists, mostly because of its potency innately with the high culture. Feel free to interchange that one if you see something else fitting for your own taste. I see this just very powerful, with good units, good unit enchantments, a good racial transformation. I'll leave it up to you to fill that blank with something else if you don't find that to your liking. I personally am pretty addicted to that tome. Can't say anything else. Moving on from here into Tome of Dragons, because no dragon build without Tome of Dragons. We now gain young dragons, which we can utilize the Tome of Evolution onto fully. They gain Resurgence once we put a healing spell on them, which means if they die and we win, they respawn. Use this. This is one of the crazy strengths of this build, because you can send tier 3 fighter units into kamikaze spots and, they can tail swipe. This is a pretty powerful move. Their damage with a tail swipe and their utility is pretty nasty, and you don't need to worry about them dying. Isn't that nice? We also gain some nifty spells for our battle mages, which we naturally have, and some couple of other good things on the way. I think Draconian Transformation actually works for this build, because we have no other major racial transformation that we want to pick. Don't miss out on the Wyvern Ivory. More knowledge, tier 3 Wyvern, enough said. I combined this build's tier 3 here with Pandemonium. Feel free to change that with Devastation if this is more to your liking. Here, Havoc Magic plus Vessels of Chaos is just such a nice combo for damage, utility, card control, several other things. Not so much for the Chaos Eater, but more for this combo in all honesty. And the rest of the build goes into the Calamity plus Prosperity combo. With this, you gain insane enchantments for your units, tier 5 dragons, a huge assortment of new units via the province improvements. Don't try to do everything at once in one city, spread it up into different cities, and just enjoy a pretty easy win from this point on if you made it this far. Cultural trade-wise, I play here Chosen Uniters plus Keepers of Knowledge, because the free city control is just nice, and I like to crank out even more knowledge. Rally of the Lieges makes you also a little bit more flexible with this build, which I also appreciated. Build number 4, Golems. Because Golems are just also very, very potent for the high culture, because Awakening makes them really, really strong. Tome number 1, Enchantment, for getting our Copper Golems going, also Purging Arrows plus Sundering Blades, never grow old. These two enchantments are really good, doubly so for the high culture, because we already come with a good package of damage natively, and therefore these characteristics here really help us out a lot. Spell Tempered Shields aren't bad at all, and the whole tome I find has a very, very good synergy with the high culture. Combination here, Zeal, just to get more power. Legion of Zeal plus Inspiring Chant is the main reason we go here, and it's a very offense-oriented build, therefore use its rushing capabilities wisely, because you are stupidly strong once you have these two tomes unlocked and these two spells active, and the rest of the package is really hard to resist the early game of that build. We are moving on to tier 2 area here, Tome of the Construct, to get our build more resilient. Now we can train those bronze golems ourselves, or our copper golems evolve eventually into these. The fun part is that from this point out, they are, if I remember correctly, costing less mana in their upkeep, but would have to look it up. But either way, we have pretty powerful spear troopers now that naturally spawn and can be recruited. With Cascading Command, we have nice defensive utilities. I love personally, though, compounding defense and linked mines most about this build. I always find that the Cascading Command spells are a little bit clunky and a little bit costly, but at the right moment, they can be devastating. Pair this up with Artificing, so we get the full Golem package, hello Mr. Iron Golem, and Artisan Armaments to get ourselves a sweet, high critical hit chance. Siege magic isn't bad at all on the side of that, because it is Siege Breaker. This thing makes your sieges so much faster. Since we field supporters and battle mages in the background a lot, I like this. From here on out, we move to the Tome of the Dreadnought next, because warding metals plus tuning kits is just so obscenely powerful for your golems. From this point on, your golems are much harder to kill, can be buffed for way more damage, and you gain some nice utility spells on the side, and a tier 4 artillery construct as well, which interacts with all the things that we did before. I move from here on to Terramancy, because the new overworked Terramancy tome has leyline focus, which is an amazing thing for our battle mages and our supporters alike. I love this thing because as long as our backline doesn't need to move, they hit amazingly hard and are hard to kill. The rest of the spells here are really cool for us as well, because we gain some really good earth magic nuke spells, and I gotta say, the Rock Giant, there's nothing wrong with that guy either if you can manage to summon them, and the Excavated Ley Line is also a really, really cool building. And from that point out, Severing plus Golden Realm. So you get the Gold Golem and the Severing Golem, the capability to disrupt enemy enchantments, and the capability to grow rich as hell. You can end this tour with the Tome of the Creator, or wherever you want to. Number 5 build, sorry, there's still the cultural. I played this with Prolific Swarmers, because Prolific Swarmers lowers the upkeep of non-magic origin units, and all golems are non-magic origin units, at least the lower tiers. I haven't checked up the tier 4 tome units, but all of the lower ones are non-magic origin units, so we lower our upkeep with that, and combine that again with any shadow trait for the extra knowledge income. Now to number 5, a Necromancy build, because I find High Culture's Necromancy is just one of the best Necromancy builds in my opinion. Here goes. We're starting out with Necromancy, obviously, to get the name-giving Necromancers, skeletons, utilities to work around with our skeletons, and gain souls. We also gain a very, very strong entry point into Battle Mage and support units, so focus that when you are recruiting skeletons as well. The next tome we're picking up here is Zeal, because we are going to go into a combination that focuses also around fighters. Therefore, Legion of Zeal is just amazing. Order and Necromancy goes better together than you might expect in the first glance, and it's a very, very powerful combo. Next tome to pick up is the Tome of Souls. This brings us an obnoxiously powerful fighter unit. The Corrupt Soul is super strong, can nuke from afar, and I find them among the very best Necromancy units in the game, personally. The rest of the kit isn't bad either. Bone Horrors give you a nice payoff if you kill higher tier units, and Soul Binders makes your backliners even more deadly. You don't need to focus too much on archers with this build though, they don't really have much synergy, and it doesn't get together ever. After Tome of Souls, this build moves over to Tome of Summoning, because undead units all happen to be magic origin units as well. So we can utilize this sweet combination here, just like we were able with the elementals. It's basically the same reasoning, just centered around undead. With tier 3, obviously we pick Great Transformation. We turn all of our units into undead now, which makes them resistant against lots of nasty statuses and gives them life leech. We also gain bone dragons, so the payoff for whatever we kill now is tremendously high, and with Fetid Legion, our entire frontline grows a lot stronger, more resilient, and we also gain a huge amount of city stability with Domain of Death, which comes in very, very good for high culture as well. I paired this variant up with Cleansing Flame. For one, I love the idea of unholy, holy undead. Anyways, but it's also gameplay-wise a surprisingly good combination. Since all of our frontliners are zealous due to the Tome of Zeal, we can utilize the Cleansing Flames for ourselves. This is insofar interesting as we, as undead, are especially vulnerable against fire damage, so we now are countering this vulnerability, at least towards our own Cleansing Flames, but it's also going really well with all the other spells in here. But first and foremostly, we gain a super reliable frontline unit for the entirety of the game, which I find extremely valuable, because with Necromancy, it's always good to have that one very powerful unit that you can recruit no matter what, not relying on Necromancy. They also pair up with the rest of the units pretty nicely. Once you have a Pyre Shrine built, everybody in your army that you recruit is faithful and therefore cheaper, and also interacting with Cleansing Flames. It's a pretty nice one. After that, we move into the Tome of the Reaper to gain the tier 5 big boy from the Necromancer faction, and all manner of different powerful troops tools as well. Marked for Death is an insanely powerful spell, which, well, just straight up kills things, and I like that. The rest of the tools in here I don't use that often. Most of the time I run around spamming Reapers, marking people for death and reanimating things. The other tome I recommend for this build would be Calamity, because we can afford going there. The enchantments here are awesome, and even if you don't go for the dragon and just for the rest of the bits and bobs in here, it's great. It also interacts pretty nicely, because if I remember correctly, most of the things in here are magic origin units, so the Tome of Summoning is a good fit here too. This build I play with Chosen Uniters combined with Runesmiths. Here, Runesmiths to get our unit enchantments cheaper, and Chosen Uniters to strengthen our economy, to get more allies together and get more Rally of the Legions, because it's always good to have a strong grip on the free cities, and many Necromancy builds that I've been playing around did quite well on that. Okay, that's 5 builds from the high culture. I have played all of these, actually, in the past. None of these is a pure theory craft, and therefore they all worked really well for me, and I hope they do so for you. So let me know in the comment section what you think. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, consider supporting via donations, YouTube channel memberships, or whatever tickles your fancy in the description box below. And of course, big thanks to all the supporters of Icon Gaming. Could never do that without you guys. And a big thanks for you watching this video up until the very end. Thanks for taking that time. Hope you liked the video. Have a great day.